Good morning. I'd like to call the August 24th Occupancy Tax Committee meeting to order. Need a motion to approve the July 21st minutes. Motion made by Supervisor Wild, seconded by Supervisor Butler. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carried. Thank you. Privilege of the floor and public comment.
You're asking for public comment, sir?
Privilege of the floor and public comment. Yep, just come right to the podium.
Great. So who am I addressing? I'm addressing here.
Committee.
Okay. Okay.
All
My
of
name's
us.
Todd Drake. I'm a local mom and pop hotel, and cabins owner in Lake George and also other parts of Warren County. I don't know if it's the appropriate venue, but it was suggested to me that it might be. And I just wanted to come and make a comment as it relates to occupancy tax revenues and what a suggested use for some of these revenues might be. I don't have any facts and figures, so if I misquote this or make a generalization that's incorrect, please don't take offense. But it is my understanding that tourism, in particular lodging, is the backbone of our industry, if you will, here in Warren County and generates tremendous receipts. We have a big looming problem in the Lake George region that I'm sure everybody's aware about, which is the Lake George Park Commission septic inspections and required replacements that are being handed down to individual properties. I wanted to just make a suggestion to this board or find out if this board is already considering whether those funds in some partial way could be earmarked toward addressing this problem to keep local businesses in the black. As we begin to lose tourism establishments, lodging facilities, which we've seen incrementally over the last 5 to 10 years, naturally we're losing occupancy tax receipts. And I think that's an important part of the financial picture here that cannot be overstated. I think towns and planning boards have been excited and wooed by the townhomes and second homes and condos and that kind of thing because they generate strong property tax increases and school district tax increases over a single property, and I can appreciate that. But the recurring revenue and the overarching revenue that is created by the multiplier effect of lodging and tourism dollars is tremendous and very important because every room night that disappears from Warren County, is essentially a visit to the arcade, a visit to a local store, a visit to a restaurant, a visit to Great Escape, whatever, okay? So the sales tax generated by those room nights, in addition to the room night sales and occupancy tax by itself, is the multiplier effect is not something I have figures on, but I know is tremendous. And so I wanted to emphasize that I think a priority of the county and the board and whoever else weighs in on these things, I'm just a lowly taxpayer, but the folks in charge, I think a priority should be keeping these mom and pop places going because it's a lot of room nights and a lot of taxes. And what we're facing right now is hundreds of thousands of dollars per property in septic improvements. This could have been solved if the sewer line extension had been, pursued north of Hearthstone Campground connecting to Bolton Landing. It would be a worthy use of funds, or at least in part. I know those are bonded, but it'd be, perhaps occupancy tax could pay the interest on those bonds. So whether it's a public project or grants, to help with these septic improvements on the private level would also be a very strong, would have a return on investment that would go on for decades. If you consider Carey's Lakeside as a great example, many people know that Carey's Lakeside closed their doors, and I think they've been very private about it, but I'll take a stab at it. Think of it this way. If you're in your 70s and you're killing yourself to run a small business like that and accommodate, and looming in front of you is hundreds of thousands of dollars in septic repairs, what's a better deal? Is it to invest in all of that, hoping for a 20-year return on investment in your 70s? Or is it to sell it to, not to be, let's be honest. Or is it to sell it to a developer? What's the better play for the enrichment of your family? So we're putting people in that position. And I think that's, again, I'm not here to be melodramatic, but I think that's the math. And people start saying, well, am I going to do that and deal with these engineers and these regulatory agencies? I'm sorry, you're a regulatory agency, but are you gonna deal with the the Lake George Park Commission, and you're gonna deal with, NCON or whatever else, right? So if there was a grant program out there, not like the $5,000 one for homeowners, but the significant infrastructure grants to keep these places in place, or if there was a sewer project, a public sewer project that could be tied into at some expense, with pumps and whatever, that would go a long way toward keeping our occupancy tax revenues flowing. So
Let me ask you something. We gotta start wrapping up. Have you gone to the Town of Lake George workshops on this, on the sewer?
Town of Lake George?
Yeah,
I have
we've
not.
had 3 of them. Can I ask you where your property is? Is it north of?
We have 2 in the
Hartstone?
town of Lake George and 1 in Bolton.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you. Thank you for your input.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just wanted to share. And again, I
Yeah.
apologize if it's not necessarily
The
within the
LGA
scope.
has some funding available to help with some of these expansions.
The which agency?
LGA, not the park commission's doing
Okay.
the inspections. The LGA has funding.
Yeah. Do you know how to connect with them on that?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I did have a conversation with one of our constituents that actually is the Lake George, owner of Lake George property. He asked me about why we aren't doing a Southern Basin sewer system. Told me that over the last, I don't know, a few decades, there have actually been 2 separate initiatives to try to make that happen, to work with the state, and it never went through. So it sounds like it's a big project that's probably hundreds of millions of dollars, but I would like to maybe refer that over to my committee with the planning department.
Sure.
See if we can try to find some way to get some long-range planning.
The southern basin of Lake George is on a sewer system. The southern basin of Lake George is, and
I guess where you draw the line, right? It's
Yeah.
Bolton.
we're in the process now. We've had 3 workshops on it, but funding and support, but we're happy to discuss that, further. Absolutely. Anybody else? Privilege of the floor, public comment? We'll move forward. We have 2. Not yet. We have 2 action items in front of us today. The first one is a resolution to add as a signature event 2027 to 2029 and approve funding for Ironman, the 70.3 licensing fees. Heather, did you want to talk a little? I know we have somebody here from Lake George to discuss it also. That's on that committee.
That would be great as well, so I won't take your thunder, I promise. But I do want to give kudos out there to many volunteers, not committee members, but ad hoc members who have come together over the last 6-8 months, I feel, to really vet this project, this event, even host them, even go as further into budgeting and all of that. And so again, I don't want to take a lot away from what you're going to say, but it's been a lot of work in the making to vet this organization and to bring such a large scale, no name event to Warren County. So.
Yeah, let's bring this to the floor first and we'll continue. Motion made by Supervisor Wild, seconded by Supervisor Turner. Any further discussion?
I'm good.
That's it? Okay. Yeah. Did you want to speak on it? You come right up to the podium.
Well, I drafted something so it's easier to gather my thoughts.
This is
So
a-
good morning. My name is Ed Pagnotta and I'm representing the town of Lake George. And I thank you for this opportunity to speak in front of you. The town of Lake George is asking Warren County to invest $200,000 from OCTAX resources to secure the Ironman 70.3 Lake George license under a 3-year agreement. We, the town of Lake George, are also contributing $250,000 to this opportunity as well. This should not be viewed as funding for a 1-day race. It is an investment in a multi-day destination event that will attract athletes, families, coaches, and spectators to Warren County and introduce them to our hotels, restaurants, shops, attractions, and outdoor recreation. The central question is simple. Will this investment create overnight visitation and countywide economic activity? And we believe it will. For the 5-day event period, we have come up with conservative, independent economic impact data. We are assuming 3 million, a little over 3 million in direct business sales, 4.68 million in total economic activity, 5,530 room nights, and more than 11,000 visitor days, 213,317 in total local tax activity. Put simply, the $200,000 investment is projected to leverage approximately $23 in economic activity for every dollar invested. We believe the $213,000 in total local tax activity generated throughout the county and our ROI generated will be between 7 and 9%. OCTAX funds exist to reinvest visitor-generated revenues and activities that create overnight stays, support tourism businesses, and strengthen the broader Warren County economy. The projected spending is broadly distributed, more than 1.1 million in lodging sales, 783,000 in food and beverage sales, 673,000 in retail sales, and more than 300,000 in recreational spending, and nearly 100,000 in transportation spending. Those dollars will reach hotels, motels, short-term rentals, restaurants, retailers, attractions, service providers, and seasonal employees throughout Warren County. Athletes and their families will stay, eat, shop, purchase, fuel, and visit attractions throughout the county. We also plan and map the bike course to include and benefit other communities in northern Warren County. We believe this analysis is conservative because it measures only the 5-day event period. It does not count athletes who will come before the race weekend to train on the course, study the elevation, and swim in the lake or participate in organized training weekends. Those advanced visits mean additional room nights, meals, and local spending that are not included in the current projections. The 3-year agreement also matters. In year 1, we build the event, we introduce thousands of new visitors to Warren County, and in years 2 and 3, we retain the knowledge, strengthen partnerships, and give athletes and their families reasons to return. Ironman also brings national and international exposures that ordinary tourism advertising cannot easily reproduce. Course announcements, athlete stories, media coverage, photographs, videos, social media posts will also showcase our lake mountains communities in an outdoor-oriented audience. We are proposing a transparent system to measure the results. We will report registrations, participant zip codes, room night pickup, OC and sales tax performance, business surveys, athlete spending, media reach, and social media engagement. The county will receive a formal post-event report showing what this investment actually introduced. The proposal aligns directly with the purpose of Warren County's OCTAX program. It creates overnight demand, supports the hospitality industry, and brings new visitors into the county and establishes a signature early season event. We say in Lake George, if not this event, what else? Finally, the event period projections alone show 5,530 room nights, 4.68 million in total economic activity for the 200,000 OCTAX investment. Training visits, repeat tourism, earned media, and 3 years of destination exposure make the case even stronger. I respectfully ask the committee to support the 200,000 investment in Ironman 70.3 Lake George. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Wild,
Chairman, 2 things. What is the date?
June 13th, the event itself will take place on a Sunday. I want to add the town of Lake George has committed to 250,000.
So it's,
Yeah.
that was my second
Yeah.
comment. It's actually 450,000
It
that
is.
OCTAX is going
Yeah.
towards this event.
Yes,
And I
and we committed
still
to
support
250.
it.
Yeah. It's a big event, but the race will be on a Sunday, so we anticipate staying over on Sunday night, which is typically a slower night, especially in June. Questions? Supervisor Patchett?
I would just note that I'm also very supportive. It just sounds like it's gonna be a wonderful event and just bring a lot of economic activity to the area. However, just I hope that we're keeping a tab on this in terms of, you know, total occupancy tax dollars spent, and we keep adding these different things as I sit on this committee and it's just seemingly, it's gotta be adding up to, close
Yeah.
to our max.
Yeah,
Other than that, I think it's a wonderful event and hope to see it happen.
thank you. Thanks. Questions? Sit, comment? Resolution on the floor, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Next, we have to extend municipal supplemental funding contract with Town of Hague until December 31st, 2027. This is for a pavilion project. My understanding is it won't be done till June or July. Make a motion to bring this to the floor to discuss. Motion made by Supervisor Runyon, seconded by Supervisor Stroud. Any further discussion? This funding's here. It's just being postponed for, going to be done a little later than you anticipated.
We anticipate it seeing it come to fruition in the spring of next year.
Yeah, very good. Let's call a question. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Discussion items. Heather, municipal supplemental funding in 2027.
So we just did our budget last week and looking at ways to fund various projects. And also looking at the history of funding sources for the municipal supplemental funding. And some of them, if not a lot of them, were related to planning projects. We recommend that any of those that look within planning projects could go through there for additional funding. Doesn't mean that they might not come to us for planning. But then also working with the two event locations that did event funding for that. We were working with them to fund through the event portal based on having a third party go for the funds. For example, if the Chamber of Commerce run the event, we would ask that the Chamber come directly to us through the event funding portal. And then also just looking, and I'm gonna peek over my head, I don't feel like we have many requests out there for municipal funding. So we would like to suspend the municipal funding supplemental line for this year, and unless the committee wants to remove it altogether. That's not the thought, but it can be going forward. We just want to have a quick discussion of whether or not. I'll give you a couple examples of projects. One being done in Lake George for the park and the trail systems. Another being a couple of, for example, this Hague project is going through there. That's one of their projects. We also used it in with regards to the observatory. Thank you, observatory. But because we don't have any requests on the table right now for those dollars, and we can utilize the dollars in other avenues, that's why we're bringing this forth to suspend it for a year in the use of it, meaning we won't need to put out an application process for this. For this current term, yes. And that's why it's more of a discussion, because there is an application process for it. And I think that before we eliminate anything, we should have the committee weigh in.
Questions from the committee? Supervisor Wild?
Bring this to the floor.
There's not a just discussion item.
Discussion area?
Yeah.
So if we're not going to be funding this, where's the money going to end up?
Most likely event funding. Matter of fact, it is going towards events. So some of it's going towards signature events that we just approved to go through. Basically, that's exactly where it's going. Being moved into funding events.
I would prefer that we use some funding like this as a way to build a war chest, so to speak, for some more large opportunities, so that we're investing in the future instead of reinvesting in, I don't want to use the word questionable events, but something that will move the needle for our tourism industry. And I think this would be a great idea to just put this in our own little fund and then add some more to it.
And we did give that thought in the budget, and we didn't budget for any interest that we received. So maybe that becomes our war fund. Your words?
How
And
much
I-
is that?
I believe as of the first 6 months, I wanna say it's about 13 now. But
Right.
we also don't have the rest of the 6 months.
So we're not gonna move the needle with $20,000, right? Very, very well. I think I'm in agreement to put this on hold. But also at the same time, we need to have a fund that we can react quickly to opportunities. And what we're doing with Iron Man is definitely an opportunity. It's $450,000 of all OCTACs between Lake George and us. We need to have a bigger fund and be able to create opportunities. So it's just my only thought.
Heather, event funding was 450,000 last year, 365.
Just shy of 400.
And this year will be,
Sure, give it 450.
is that, yeah, I saw 450, okay. So part of that,
475.
and does that include, that does not include signature events, correct, or it does? Or-
That is the signature event line.
That is, at 475 will cover every signature event, including Ironman. Okay,
And what's the other portion of it?
The other event funding I wanna say is 325.
325.
And signature is 535.
530.
okay.
Signature is 535.
Mhm.
And then the events is
325.
325.
Thank you. See you later.
This
Su-
is already funding, I didn't totally, I guessed, it's a guesstimate, right, somewhere around 250.
We used to only fund it for 50,000. And then somehow the last 2 years, we've found other projects and stuff that may, or should have maybe gone through events.
Supervisor Stroud?
Proposing to suspend these.
So those were through the application, so these are not, there's nothing on the docket right now. There's an application process. All I'm asking is that we forego the application process for this year to alleviate, to allow for funding to move into other lines.
Forthcoming. These get funded.
Those
I'm
were,
confused.
those were applied for last year and got funded last year, so all those are getting funded from 2026.
And a municipality can come forward, fill out an application.
That's the line we're looking to.
I know, but yeah, but they could put a separate application in as a host.
No other funding source of applicant, there's no other application process. For a municipality,
Like we just did for Ironman.
that was through supplemental.
Right. Okay,
So this is $260,000 that we're not going to distribute this year, but we are going to distribute it to signature events. Is that what you're saying?
Last year, this line was 50.
Okay.
We awarded way above $50,000.
Okay.
So we continue to go above what our budget is to reallocate funds. We can budget again 50
So
and
the,
continue to go higher than our budgeted amount.
so we could get 260 into the future war chest or whatever we want to call it.
These funds
potentially.
are already spoken for 27.
Are we-
Based on our first process of budget. You will get the ability to react to the budget when it comes forth in front of the committee. But looking at preliminary budget lines, this is where we're looking to cut certain things to add other things. Events are a huge driver. And we should be putting monies into events, specifically large scale events. We know that that is what brings heads events. And that's was one of the ways of us moving stuff around in order to make a budget work.
Supervisor Patchett?
Thank you, Chairman. Heather, did you just say that the municipal supplemental funding for 2027 has already been spent?
It's already been through the first round of budget, spent now. We've reallocated the dollars, but again, you all need, the budget still has to come through the committee. So if there's other discussions that need to happen, they can still take place. So that's why this is happening now. Because if there really is a really big push to put these funds in, we're gonna have to go back to the drawing board.
Oh, Chairman.
Supervisor Patchett?
But essentially though, what, like, for instance, we just approved Iron Man. And I voiced a concern prior to approving Iron Man that we're spending dollars that essentially we're not necessarily sure that we have or not. And now you're saying that these monies have actually already been sort of earmarked, although it's not officially spent. So we're saying it's already been spent, and now we're kind of like retroactively saying, and we're gonna just suspend this. You know what I'm saying?
So there have been no 2027 dollars spent. We only allocate right now based on contracts.
Mhm.
And there is nothing in the docket for municipal applications, although we haven't put the application out. And the majority of them are probably some of them are planning projects, no disrespect to anyone, but building some of these structures that we may want to hold back for 1 year. Not saying to continue forever, but just some years you have to cut back a little in order to fund other things that produce more dollars for us in occupancy tax.
Supervisor Runyon?
So what you're saying is this is not being touched,
Correct.
but future money that would have gone to municipalities in an application process is gonna be reallocated back into the events for this year to make your budget work better.
Correct.
Okay, I get it.
Supervisor Patchett? Oh, I'm sorry.
Therefore, we won't put out an application just this year.
Right, that sounds good to me.
Yeah. I'm having trouble getting on board mainly because you're taking away the one avenue that small towns and large towns have to be able to apply for dollars. And now we have no application process moving forward. I
For
mean,
1 year, you don't, but you do get the 25% and your spending plan. For 1 year, we're asking to try and make that work in order to help increase some funding on some of the events that we know will definitely bring that return. And hope that with the success of funding these events, we get more dollars for 28 budget. And that's the goal of looking in this from this perspective.
and how do we know that the municipal application funding is not yielding big results? I mean, point in case, The Hague for the first time ever applied for dollars outside of our normal appropriation that we get based on what we produce in occupancy tax in the county. Now, all of a sudden, any small town going forward, or large town really, has no avenue to come to this committee and put forth an application. There's no application process. I mean, the chairman just came out and asked that, hey, well, they can still always come to the committee. And then instead I heard just the opposite, that they can't come to the committee. And then it's just almost like we're kind of saying, well, we're moving in this direction, and now all of a sudden there's no more. And I kind of feel like if we let this happen this year, that's gonna be the precedent moving forward, because it won't ever come back. So I'm opposed. I just want to be very clear that I think we're taking something away from towns and their ability to have creative ideas and to target specific things that can be life-changing for those small municipalities.
Yeah. Supervisor Runyon?
This is just for 1 year, and the reason that they want to do that is because everyone was asked to have a zero increase budget. So they're being forced to keep their budget where it was the year before. And it's just a way of balancing your budget for the 1 year. And then you could go back to the municipality application process, but for right now, you have a tight budget
We will also bring this as a discussion.
in the
next year.
budget.
Like, this is not a decision, this is not to say we're not gonna fund it. And the reason why this is a discussion is to just have this, which is very helpful going forward. So you will still, the committee will still have the ability to voice their opinion on whether to not fund it in 28. But really the request here, and that's why it's not a resolution. It doesn't mean, if the majority of the committee says, I want municipal in there, going back to the budget.
Yeah.
But the first things that are gonna be covered in that op tax are contracted items. And then everything else is gonna be what we can afford.
I don't think we should lose signature events or any big event over this. That's where it should go for now, because that will bring us more money later. And it will increase your revenue.
But
Yeah, Supervisor Turner, did you have your hand up?
I did. So I don't understand why we just can't keep the line. You said it was at 50,000 and then you allowed more than 50,000. Why can't you just leave that 50,000? I mean, there are instances, there's smaller amounts here for some things and just once the 50,000 is gone, the 50,000 is gone. And every single year, I've been, this is my third year, there's always a new signature event.
Yep.
Always going, every year we see a new signature event, so we have to, another one to fund and then another one to fund, so.
I have no issues putting a $50,000 line in there. I just challenge the committee not to go over that line. So if we have applications that come in, we have to say no. It's the only thing that we really have to stick to. So I can go back in and redo the budget based on a $50,000 line, release the application process. And we will bring it through to this committee. There might be future hard decisions that are gonna have to be made.
Supervisor Wild, did you have your hand up?
Well, there might be another option. The towns get 25%. That's over $2 million. Now, granted, right now it goes to 4 large municipalities, of which Queensbury is part of, Lake George, Village and Town, and Bolton. I almost think it's the time where we say that has grown significantly to the point where we need to restructure the numbers. Now, obviously, it's worked well for Lake George. They have $250,000 to put towards Ironman. But does it need to grow? That 25% need to grow every year? And what kind of return are we getting for all those monies? I don't know. I would say, there's parks being funded, there's all sorts of infrastructure being funded. I don't necessarily agree that because of the windfall we had after COVID and the growth that we had with short-term rentals has produced a windfall across the board. The county got more, the towns got more, but eventually how much is enough? And if you think about what we're trying to do in terms of drive tourism, drive heads and beds, right? Is the infrastructure pieces where it might be a park or something like that more important than another signature event? I think we need to try some more signature events. We need to find a way to fund that. And that's one of the reasons why I keep on bringing up ideas like this. But I think we should stop this for the year.
Supervisor Patchett.
Thank you, Chairman. I mean, we're talking about, what did we say it was? It was 285 or something that, and now we're satisfied with just being at 50 grand. The truth is that all of these signatures events and the bulk of this $8 million that comes in yearly goes to the bigger towns, which are producing the bulk of the monies. I can admit that, but it's just you're taking away our one potential avenue to even have an opportunity to ask for money and sort of eliminating it. And I find it very hard to get on board with that. I mean, we keep and I also think this whole conversation is premature until every member of this committee has a budget in front of them and find out where all the monies are going to in the next year. I mean, we don't have any numbers in front of us. We're hypothetically talking about this in such a way that's kind of throwing around numbers without actually understanding where all the monies are going.
This is why it's discussed here, because it's a healthy conversation to help decide whether or not it's a good thing for us to cut that or not.
I agree with
But I
Josh.
do agree that if you don't have all the numbers, you know.
Just all the numbers.
Yeah. So then we'll add the 50,000 in for the budget. And then we'll bring it here and you can see where the dollars are. But it seemed like the 50,000 was what wanted to be, and then look at where all the other numbers are.
Do you want to see numbers coming out of the tourism budget and OCTAX budget?
We will bring forward.
Both.
During budget committee time, we will bring the budgets and we can have this conversation at that time.
Supervisor Patchett?
I think the budget line should stay exactly as it's been at the
Yeah.
268, and the committee can determine where to cut the money from.
The budget was never 268. The budget has always been 50.
I thought,
The amendments, we have amended that. So what we did is we used additional $26 as well as the interest and as well as pulling from other lines for the 26 fund. It was always 50. We've always made amendments the last 2 years.
it got us to that $300,000 mark.
Okay, so moving forward, we're going to have, committee will see both budgets and continued discussion. Correct?
Both budgets, I thought that the tourism committee reviews the tourism budget.
I just asked that if you wanted to see.
Okay.
And all the different events that are being funded.
Does the committee want to see both budgets, tourism and OCTAX, or? I know, yeah, but they got.
Well,
It's coming.
that's,
Yeah,
what was the direction of the budget officer?
yeah, I mean, if you want to see the tourism budget, you got to go to the tourism meeting, but I'm just saying, are you, to make your decision and to move forward, are you interested in seeing both budgets? Okay,
Because it comes out of OCTAX.
Right.
Tourism budget.
okay. That's the plan. We'll continue. Heather, you're up again. Heather, you're speaking low today, which is not typical, but I can't hear good, so.
So I'm bringing the air race back to this committee. Again, after doing budget, it appears that we don't have the $2.1 million most that we would need for this contract. That is the maximum amount, 2.1 million. And therefore, this committee does not vote on whether to keep the event or leave the event. This committee is about funding of this event. And we do not have those funds. Coming back to budget questions. There's nowhere to get $2.1 million earmarked for next year.
So we take it off the list.
Everyone in agreement with that? Yes.
One question, but doesn't their business model reimburse you in increments as it progresses?
Well, we have to put the 2.1 million out, and we do not have it. Unfortunately. That's just, we'll point out in our cash flow, we do not have it.
I've not had a chance to, I've looked at the contract, but I haven't really dug into it. And was there something in the contract that said if they didn't meet their ticket sales, we would be responsible to fill that gap?
That's correct.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oof.
There's a lot of holes in the contract, at least what little bit that I read of it. And the fact that I think there was something in the Southwest that they were going to approve and get approval as being the first race. That fell through. So I'm a little concerned about whether the fact that we would be the first in line. And there's always consequences of understanding whether this is something we could make money on or not. So I would rather we postpone that. Just say, let's to see how that business and that event operates, and maybe we can do it in the future.
Supervisor postpone the discussion or recommending that we see how
Recommending
it,
that we,
the business model,
with next year's event.
okay. Very good. Any other comments? Supervisor Patchett?
Yeah, just, I'm think that, you know, hearing the proposal about Air Race X, is there a way to somehow make it work to where we're not at risk with some different organizations, businesses, or I don't know, maybe it's a long shot, but it sounds like it would be a wonderful thing for the county to bring it here, but like Heather said, if we don't have the money, we don't have the money, so we gotta take that into consideration.
Yeah.
It would be nice if somebody had a creative.
You mean like sponsors and whatnot?
Something, yeah, to make it happen, or some contract negotiation with the, he actually left me a voice message just if I had questions. I never actually got back to him, but I gotta think that where there's a will, there's a way, kind of a thought. That's all.
Okay.
Can I?
I've been always concerned about the liability. It's on our property. What if something bad happened? And what would be our liability if something like that happened?
Attorney would like to comment.
Yeah, I went through the contract pretty deeply, and so did Ryan in my office. And I had a very long discussion with their attorney. And I think that it's doable. They're very easy to work with. They addressed a lot of the issues that my office had. And he actually sent me a red line version of the contract last week. I just haven't gotten to it. But I think one thing that, you know, we didn't discuss because it's not up to the attorneys is the money, right? And that is for you guys to negotiate, for Heather to negotiate and to decide on. But as you said, Supervisor Patchett, anything's possible, right? And we certainly can negotiate with them. If you guys feel more comfortable in the future taking on that, just know that my office is ready to negotiate, and they were very easy to negotiate with.
Supervisor Patchett?
Yeah, does their insurance hold the first liability, for instance, if there was a problem on county property, whose insurance would kick in first?
So we weren't even there yet, right? Because there was a lot of discussion within the contract of defining what the venue was exactly. There was a lot of terms like in and around, and so we had to define those things more carefully. So this was going to be a long negotiation process just to get the words to a point that made my office comfortable for you guys to sign off on it. So I think it was first and foremost decide whether or not you guys are willing to put up this money. And then from there, the negotiating all the other aspects of it, like the insurance, like the claims, like what the sheriff's office would have to do, all those other pieces to it. Lots of questions within the contract. So, but first and foremost, do you want to spend that money? If you do, our office can make anything work, right? So we weren't even at that insurance piece yet because we were still negotiating just the definitions of what the venue was, how long the venue was going to be, et cetera.
Good, thank you. Any other comments? Supervisor Patchett?
Could the position of the county be to relay to the owner of Race X that we don't want to front the money, but we're interested in the event?
Yeah, we can say that. I think they can negotiate a smaller upfront, but you know, it's up to the committee where they want to go with it. And has this business model been effective anywhere else, successful anywhere else, this exact business model? Do we know that?
From what I understand, it has not. It has not.
But the event certainly has taken place. We know that because we've looked them up, right, in other areas. Colorado? No?
All
So
done.
the event, thanks, Mr. Chair, the event has not taken place in this, the event has not taken place in this type of venue. In the past, the racers have raced in their home countries, and they've conducted a virtual race from the various locations. What they're proposing now is to bring all the racers from the various countries, and they're from all over the world, to come into a location. And this is the first year they want to do this and bring the racers into a location and actually conduct a race in that location. So this is a model. It had been run under the previous Red Bull air races, and they did this very frequently. And then when Red Bull bowed out, the SpaceX, or not SpaceX, AirX, took over. And so they had a couple, they did the virtual ones, and now they want to do the other ones. This was first brought up to the Public Works Committee when we talked about our facilities. We talked about the airport. And I believe at the time, they had negotiated the best deal they could think. And I believe Heather asked to do further negotiations, and that's how it's kind of bumped to this committee. And I believe you've done that, and this is pretty much the best deal. So I don't think there is any other negotiation. Heather could probably speak on that, could be had to where they would front the money. It just didn't seem like the expense of bringing all these racers in from around the world would be the expense they'd need in order to pull it off. What Kevin Hajos had hinted at, he said, they're looking to fill their dance card for the upcoming year with events, with so many days between events. So if this is pretty much an all or none for us. If we decide we're not going to go forward with this, we probably will not have the opportunity to come back a second year and say, okay, now we're ready, because they probably will fill up their race scorecard and they'll have the races that, scheduled, unless one of the events became unsuccessful in a location and they'd be willing to look in another location. Thanks. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
You look at Red Bull, our experience with it, they eventually gave up because they couldn't make any money with it. It was an advertising campaign, but people weren't showing up, and they eventually walked away.
Yeah. The committee feel there's not enough funding to move forward, is that? Okay. That's it. Go back to county facilities, airport, I guess. Thank you. Jessica, cash flow report?
Okay, page 9 has our last 3 months actuals and then the next 3 months projected. The projected numbers, the receivables are based on last year's numbers. We really don't know what they're gonna be, so it could be higher, it could be lower. And then same thing with disbursements. That could also be higher, it could be lower. I do know in August has the spending plan in there. September has administration for the treasurer's office. And October has both payments for the Civic Center for their promotional, and then the 200,000 for their ice rink study. And it also has the first payment of 2026 to the municipalities, which is 30,000 each. So it's just a guess, basically.
So the Civic Center comes out of October to 1,
That's what we're planning on.
1,215, the 1,215,000.
The Civic Center, 200,000
Yeah,
for the ice rink.
right. And that's where that would come out of, admin would come out of the 530, okay.
It just
Very good.
depends on receivables. So we're just watching cash flow to see when we can best possibly pay those higher expenses. And then we also still have 250 for the town of Johnsburg that has to be paid by the end of the year.
When you go down to cash invested, ICS reserve, it's in red, but that's still a positive number.
Still
That's-
positive, it's just
it's-
below the 1.5.
Okay. Okay, and that would be our reserve.
Yep. Looks like we'll be back to normal on that by October, hopefully.
Okay. And the CVB funding comes out of October, correct?
Get their quarterly payment. And
Gotcha,
also the quarterly
162.5.
payment for Civic Center.
Okay, very good. Questions, anything? Thank you. Good job. Treasury report?
I can do that one too. if you
All
want.
right. So,
Okay. So total receipts through 8/10/2026. Adjusted is 2,119,000. Compared to last year, there's a $235,000 increase. And then hotel motel resorts, total adjusted through 8/10 is 1,602,000. And that is a decrease of 68,610. Short-term rentals. Collection through 8/10 is 517,000. That is a increase of 304,000 from last year. And that was mostly due to the collection process now. So now short-term rentals pay quarterly or monthly rather than yearly. So we're seeing a little boost there, which will end
yeah,
up
yeah,
leveling out.
yeah. That 142.8 is certainly a reflection on the way it's collected. Now, you could
Yep.
collect monthly and many of them are.
Yeah, and hotel and motel resorts are 80% of the collections for Octax, and short-term rentals only 20.
You know, Jess, you look at the tourism report and it shows revenue up a little, right? But then you look at the Octax and it says collections are down a little and.
Yeah,
um,
I think that's just basically because of how people are paying their Octax.
Yeah,
Some people pay it monthly, some people pay it quarterly, some people pay it probably yearly.
yeah.
Some people might not pay at all. Depends. Oh,
No, that's a good explanation. And yeah, I want the supervisor to understand that. Supervisor Wild?
So I'm trying to make sense of this, and I can't really make any sense of this in terms of how are we doing this year? Because of the fact that we've changed the way the money's coming in from an allocation standpoint. How are we doing? Are we moving the needle? How would we, as an occupancy tax committee, understand whether we're making a difference or we're not, based on 142% increase in short-term rentals? It's tough for us to figure this out.
yeah, it's hard, we're definitely hard to understand between collections and actual occupancy. So I would say year to date, our occupancy percent is up. So it's just gonna take a little longer to see it within the receivables for when people make their actual payments.
Over the year, we're up in occupancy
Yes.
by how much?
I'm not entirely sure. I could get that number for you though.
1 or 2%?
It's not a lot, but
Not doing
Visitor
much.
spending.
But like, if you look at July was down just a hair, so occupancy was down 0.5%. Whereas I believe previous month was up like 3.5%.
Had some good weather too, so just.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah. We have.
Thank you, Jess.
You're welcome.
Not disappointed you.
Good job, Jess.
I always ask Jess if she's causing trouble.
And our last discussion item, John Carr, Octax Committee Advisory Panel. Hey, John.
Good afternoon, everyone. I was here a couple times over the summer to discuss, just how we manage $8.3 million. I've had a few conversations with, Vinny, Heather, Gina, different, stakeholders that are involved with it, including a small group of us, who are actually the ones that collect the money and actually live by the, by the success of how that money is spent. What I'm here today to try to push forward with in a discussionary format is to get feedback from this committee. Looking at how different counties use this same law and how it's applied, the state does allow some variations and whatnot. And to try to create ultimately, hopefully today or the next meeting, a committee that could form to advise this group and the Board of Supervisors, that would be a procedural question, on the creation of a tourism council. And the tourism council would be, hopefully created by law. And its job would be not to advise each town on each little project or even this board on each little project, but to look at the grant applications that are coming in and working to confirm that those grant applications actually meet what the law is. And then make a recommendation on a quarterly basis to this committee or the County Board of Supervisors on what is and what does, what meets that, that state statute, 12.2U for the county. With that said, that would also include what is the budget for the CVB? What is the budget for the county tourism office? Not to advise it on each little item, but is it meeting the requirements of that law? It would not be the goal of that commission to regulate the towns. There's currently a percentage that's set up there that was discussed earlier in this meeting. That would stay the same. That would be a County Board of Supervisors decision, not a commission decision. The commission's really looking at how is that spending being done, whether it meets that or that law or not, and then recommending back to this committee. For example, Yates County in New York State out in the Finger Lakes, they recommend back on an all or nothing type proposal. Here's what we think meets our law. All or nothing, approve it or not approve it. Removing some of the political individualism that happens with each individual application. All these applications are well meant, they're important to the towns. Those applications could go to the individual towns, but on a very big global picture, the way Yates County does it in this all or nothing. Now, at that point, the OCTAX committee, or of course, the County Board of Supervisors could agree or disagree. If they disagreed, say more than 15% of whatever money was being allocated, they could change the number. Somebody applies for 50,000, County Board of Supervisors says it's worth 100, they could change that. They just make a written, reason for that through the resolution that would be forwarded to make that change. The goal here is really to get ahead of the individual monthly meetings where this is important and that's important, and try to establish some procedure for this. It would also be the commission's responsibility to review the law itself and make recommendations to the County Board of Supervisors and the county administrator and council if there should be either clarifications or changes to the way that that law is currently drafted. And if you read that promotion of tourism activities, comma, there's a big grammatical issue there, and if you're an English major, you know what happens after the comma. And that's a tricky thing. And each, year that gets interpreted slightly different. It would also be to weigh whether the ROI for each of those applications and the process itself and how the money's being invested is correct. Currently our own application process spells out how that money is spent and, eligible uses and expenditures, and it's promotion related, which is correct. When you actually go to what is happening in a real life situation, only 14% of the money that's allocated is actually being used for promotion. 25% of that money is going to hire bands. A good chunk of that money is going to hire events or rent hotel rooms for promoters of private events. I'm not sure that's quite appropriate, but that would be something this commission or this committee would look in drafting, and ultimately the responsibility of this commission. We have tried advisory committees in the past. They were well-intended. They failed. I think all of us on an elected basis listen to our constituents, which is great. But a commission would have a different role to make sure of its compliance with the law itself, and avoid litigation and confusion as we move from, different boards every so many years when there's an election and different interpretations based on who our treasurer is, who our council is, who our administrators are. These interpretations change. And to look at whether this money is, being spent in accordance with that law. What I would ask today, hopefully, or possibly at the next meeting, I'm not totally sure of the procedure, but a resolution for me and several other business people to work on drafting a resolution to forward what this commission's responsibilities and legal status would be to bring it back to this group or to the full county board of supervisors. So kind of an informal, working group to then make proposals to what a resolution would be moving forward.
Questions? Gotta be questions on this. John?
I got a lot. That's a lot to throw at you, and my apologies. This is sort of the informal start of this, I guess, or formal start, I should say.
Give it a shot. John, I know that there have been discussions in the past. I've been involved with them from time to time. And you'll hear from some people that everything should be marketing. Every dollar should be marketing. Other people say that all the dollars should be left to the towns, right? Let the towns decide because they know best. I'm not sure how you can put someone together to provide some kind of guidelines in terms of what you're trying to do versus what we try to do. And I think, I've got a couple months left. Maybe I can make some changes here, but it's a sticky wicket, so to speak.
But John, you're not saying the distribution, you're saying the funding. You want to make sure that the funding follows the letter of the law, so to speak. So you wouldn't into this commission wouldn't interfere with the tourism departments want to do a campaign in Queens. It's nothing like that. Is that fall under the letter of the law?
Yes.
Does that follow that?
Yes.
And that's probably a good thing. It takes it takes the politics out of it, takes the emotion out of it. And am I in the right, am I following what you're saying?
In my.
And then if the commission said, no, this doesn't follow it, what kind of teeth do they have to that? And can that be appealed when you say comes back to the full board of supervisors? Is that like an
Yes.
appeal process or?
Any recommendations or decision from this commission? And again, this is what, I'm looking for the charge today for, is to start to draft very specific guidelines. For example, an event comes to town, depending on how one interprets that law and those commas, what is promotion? And is it just bringing the event and helping to host it? Or is it strictly advertising? And I think that's a big difference there. Some counties that use OCTAX, Key West is a good example, they allow an application to come in and 70% of that application is for promotion. The remaining 30% is at the discretion of the promoter and that their occupancy tax review group.
Okay.
So there could be some things that are there. What we're really trying to prevent, and I think on a legal side, when I look at a lot of the events that have happened and the money that's being spent back to it, when I talk to different event promoters and I say, well, how do you handle promotion? They say it's too difficult when we submit our paperwork to get funding. It's easier to put in for bands, or it's easier to put in for tents. I don't have to document that the logo was on the website. I don't have to document the impressions on Facebook. I just give them a bill for the band. And that's understandable. And I think when we look at the evidence, that's out there for special event funding, it's pretty clear that's what these promoters are doing. And that's okay, maybe it's not. And I think that commission would be established to look at that and to draft how that process would go. Having listened to discussions on OCTAX for 25 years from many of you guys and spent a lot of hours, listening to it and going through it, since I started in 1999. Money should be invested and how. That removed this discussion that happens, and put yourself in their shoes you represent a community here, a town, your local library wants money for OCTAX. What do you do? That's a tough spot to be. This would help to remove that. At that point, the recommendations are made to the County Board of Supervisors or the OCTAX. This would be worked out.
Yeah.
At that point, that group could, the County Board of Supervisors could say, no, we want to fund that library. And they would pass a resolution to say, we adopt this with additional funding for the library in town X, because we believe that town's promotional plan is important. Just some reasoning behind it, that the people that do collect this money and, they collect a lot of it. It costs a lot of money to collect this kind of revenue for these hotels, keep track of it, file it, and do that.
Questions from the committee? Supervisor Stroud?
John. Now, whether it's an individual or a group of individuals, I, for one, I think this committee in total would appreciate any input about where you think we might be misspending or where we might spend it better or where we're going to spend it more in accord with the law. I would appreciate that feedback, and you're welcome to provide that feedback at committee meetings and Board of Supervisors meeting. Are you looking for something more formal, more sanctioned?
Yes, yes. Again, this process, we have $8.3 million. Supervisor Wild brought it up before. This amount of money grows every year. It's a major responsibility to spend it. Somebody coming in front of you at this committee and making comments, we've done this for 25 years. What I would be recommending is something that has, through statute, is created as a council, much like a fire district, that's created with a fire district, committee, or council that's created to sort of make sure the money is being invested correctly and advise this group on that. This group or the County Board of Supervisors could, take those those recommendations, approve it. As Yates County does, it's an all or nothing thing. Or they could go through those recommendations and say, we think, Air X should get $1.2 million. You would still have that responsibility at the committee level here or at the County Board of Supervisors. But by statute, this committee, would propose to you guys, the committee would propose what the bylaws of this commission would be.
Anything we do would come out of our legal, right? So
Yeah, absolutely.
structured
Yes.
from internally here.
Yeah.
And, so we'd start there.
And again, I think it's a compliance, it is the intent of that law being followed. Saratoga County, they allocated to a marketing group. That takes care of a lot of their questions. Essex County, Roost, same sort of
Goes to
thing.
Roost, and
Right.
1% of it gets distributed.
Right.
Yeah.
And through this commission, let's look at the 4%. Currently, roughly 1% of it is being spent by the towns. I wouldn't envision that changing, how that money is spent.
That's increased.
Yeah. Hopefully at a town level, it would stay there, but it would be something to look granularly at how this money is, being spent. If we move forward, with, Commissioner of Finance, obviously that job would, kind of be part of what we're talking about here, making sure that money is being invested wisely and
Supervisor
correctly.
Runyon?
I'm sorry, I have a 1 o'clock appointment.
Yeah, I do too. Oh, you gotta go?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Supervisor Patchett?
Yeah.
Thank you.
think Mr. Stroud kind of hit on it. You know, that word commission really, to me, says enforcement, unilateral power. And I kind of feel like that a lot of people would interpret that as you're kind of taking that power away from the Board of Supervisors in terms of the decision-making process.
And I guess if you look locally at examples, our EDC, is funded through the county. They make their decisions on what they're going to do. If the county board of supervisors disagreed with it, or they're, you guys could overturn any decision they make at any time. That's a local thing. A lot of the towns have, fire district commissioners that are responsible for, they have a job, make sure that, the towns are safe as far as fires go, and, the money's being well spent and well invested. I think it's more in that line, not ultimate power. The ultimate power lies in the county board of supervisors and this committee to overturn any recommendations that would come forward.
Supervisor Wild.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe that the county attorney and her team are kind of reviewing the occupancy tax law, if I'm not mistaken. I know you guys have a lot of things on your plate.
That's correct, we are.
So I'd prefer that we wait for something like that for us to see, as well as for not a commission, but for anyone in the tourism industry that has questions about that to respond to us before we change anything in the occupancy tax law. I think it's important for us to kind of refine some of the things that are in there. And then by then, maybe it would make more sense. But I think right now, do we have any timing on the new revised occ tax law?
We're currently drafting that. There's been a lot of changes in legislation, so we are adopting those changes and we're working on it currently. And if I may just comment on a few of the things that have been mentioned today. I mean, I've been furiously writing down one legal issue after another as you discuss
Well,
this.
this is the very beginning.
Yeah, no, and happy to work with you guys if this is the way you want to go forward, but I'm just going to throw out some of the things that and no need to respond, just some things that are, coming out to me is, you talk about advising whether or not it's within the letter of the law. That's kind of my office's job. Additionally, some of the people that you're talking about, there seems like there would be inherent conflicts of interest between the group and what they're advising on. That'd be something I would want to make sure that's not happening. So I think you may want to refine what your purpose is and the ultimate goals of it. I understand where you're coming from and the value add that it would have, but I think that to Supervisor Wild's point, maybe, go back to the drawing board a little bit on this, but I see the value in what you're recommending.
And basically at this point, I'm not looking for a resolution to establish this commission today. What I'm looking for is a charge to form a committee that could clarify this, through, by working with, the CVB, the County Board of Tourism, your office, to come up with what this would be in a more final form. This is very preliminary. Just looking to form a working group to make further recommendations on what this would be. Looking at the investment that is being made with OCTAX, each meeting, should it be long-term? Should it be short-term? Is this a good thing? Is that a good thing? It's a meeting by meeting, event by event discussion, and it's very time consuming. And I'm not sure at the end of the day, it's really working. And when I look at how that occupancy tax money, at least with the event side, is being invested, I'm not sure that that's working for us right now. Maybe it is, but I would like to look at that, and I think that's where the intent of this started in 2003 with an advisory committee, and there was I think it was like 35 people on the thing. For sake of efficiency, I would recommend a small group of, to work to draft some more clear guidelines as to what this commission could do. And again, the authority is ultimately with this board and with the County Board of Supervisors. But to try to minimize some of the turbulence from year to year, when elections happen and we get new ideas in town, sometimes we take a left turn and it takes a while to get back to where we were trying to go in the beginning. And if you're in the industry, it's very frustrating. And it's very costly and it's very time consuming. And I think when we look at other models of how this law is being interpreted and used in other counties, they've gone through these same processes and really tried to lock it down as to how that money should be, should be used or should be addressed. Not specifically, but as a guideline. I think that's more of what it would be.
Yeah. Very good. Supervisor Wild.
Mr. Chairman, just a thought. One of the things that we don't hear about is the return on our investment. I bring it up every once in a while. And John, your group might be able to help us with that. But along those lines, when we see the budget for the Act Tax and Tourism, maybe the next meeting, whenever it happens, I know that we have ROI calculators based on what an event might do. I'd love to see that ROI calculator information for each event, because my sense tells me that our ROI is much lower than what people are saying it is. So maybe there's a way to look through this through a different lens, but I think John has some good points, but I'd rather prefer we sit and think about it for a little while before we move, and maybe defer it till next month.
Okay.
Would there be anything specific you'd like me to bring back, Supervisor Wild? We're in a discussion format.
It's just a straw man, kind of what you think you guys would do, what advice you would bring. Is it based on ROI? Is it based on short-term, long-term? I think those are good things that this group may not be able to interpret ourselves with the information that we have. So that might be something of value.
And again, I think that's, this working group, that would be one of the goals. ROI is a great question. How do you measure ROI?
Yeah.
For example, a marketing campaign could be simple, as Facebook, how many people actually looked at that? If we're talking, something with, responses on AI, getting feedback for that. That's very different than ROI heads and beds.
Right.
Now,
This is just like kind of, it's vague to me right now what it really means. So
Yep.
maybe if you just think it's a straw man.
and this would be,
Next month, then we could.
Yep. And this would be what this committee with this working group would come up with, would be to define that. What I'm looking for today is, I guess, the authority, permission, encouragement, the charge.
Yeah, bring us a proposal on the advice of our
Okay.
attorney also to tighten it up a little. But my understanding is still that you're looking at something that says this fits into our guidelines. Now, the 12.2 statute is kind of ambiguous, right? It's this little,
It is, a lot of the different counties have modified it.
right.
And
Yeah, maybe we tighten that up, but that's a whole nother
that's
level.
kind of what this,
Another level.
this,
I mean, yeah.
committee and commission would be charged
Yeah,
with.
but as it would sit now, you would say, well, this application may not fit into the proper use of OCTAX in a nutshell.
In process, yes.
Right, in process, yeah.
And
that's
to
where
work
I'm
with
at,
that event promoter to try to make sure it is compliant with that.
Right.
And I think that's sort of where we need that clarification.
I think you're on the right track, and let's see where it goes. And so always a lot of opinions and a lot of questions. We always ask, are we better off with it or without OCTAX? And well,
And those of you that have towns that have fire commissions,
yeah.
you know why they're there.
I don't know if the Civic Center would be open without OCTAX. I'm not sure if it would be.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
That's one example.
Yep. So it sounds like it
Sure,
would be
but-
to draft what this, what this working group's task would be. And possibly discuss it with the county attorney. Would that,
Yep.
am I hearing that
Well-
correctly?
Yeah, wait till we get a chance to kind of review that first before we engage the attorney.
Okay.
It's just more high
Okay.
level.
Yeah, no, this is a big thing.
Value to us.
Yep, exactly. So, I'm available, or I can call and harass you guys either way.
Either way works.
Just harass Vinny.
Yeah.
All right, thank you for the time.
Thanks, John. Good job. Thank you. Anybody else? Privilege of the floor, public comment? Gary?
Gary Thornquist, Lake George RV Park. I'll make this very brief. I know that everybody wants to get out of here really quick. Just circling back to some of the other things that were said previously in the committee. When Octax was set up, that 25% that goes to the towns was really a give back to get the law passed. The tourism community didn't want that. They wanted the full 4%. The town said, just give us the 1%. We won't ask for anything else. But clearly, there's a lot of money going to municipalities out of the Octax between the sewer project and other items. There's plenty of money that's going to municipalities at this point. When Octax started, I think our collections the first year were under $2 million. Now they're 8 million. Towns are getting a quarter of that. And the towns, unfortunately, aren't as accountable as some of the special events are. You know, we're requiring reports on heads and beds and everything else. The towns don't have to meet that standard a lot of times to get that money. So I would just say, I'm fine with municipalities not getting more than they are right now. That's it. Thank you.
I'm going to comment quick as a supervisor of a town in Lake George. You know, you look at the talk of 2% coming back to us. For example, Lake George looks at the Ironman. We have to turn away from right now from Ironman also is offering us a UTMB, which is a trail racing event. We don't have the funding to do it. So we're basically going to say no to it. So when you know, we fund Americade and Car Show and the wine Sasha is event. But the point is, you know, you talk about do the towns get too much? It's a big number, but there's a lot of events going on and there's a lot of people wanting to be, you know, in towns like Lake George. Fireworks are $7,000 a week. It just goes on and on and on. Like I say, we have a big event now that we don't think we can fund that would have a major impact, we believe, on this whole county. But as we move forward, it's I'll always support the funding we get because it's needed and we know it's best. But anyway, thank you. Any more public comment or privilege of the floor? Anyone? Committee? Motion to adjourn. Motion made by Supervisor Strauss, seconded by Supervisor Turner. All in favor? Aye. Aye, opposed?